Welcome to a play-by-play review. I'm your host, Henry, and I completely forgot track of time and also what day it was. So this is going up a little bit later than my usual Saturday uploads. I think as I'm recording this, it is 12:32 in the morning on Sunday because I was like doing my usual routine of like getting ready for like packing things up for the night. And then I was like, wait a minute. There's something I was forgetting. And then I realized, oh yeah, I should probably record my podcast episode that I have, that I usually do on Saturdays. So yeah, I'm going to be doing this. We're going to be going back to the Kaprulu sector once more and going up a game about 12 years in terms of real life time, more like 11 and a half. 4 years in-game time, going from StarCraft Brood War to StarCraft II. So Brood War came out in December of 1998. Then in July of 2010 is when StarCraft II Wings of Liberty comes out. And so Wings of Liberty is the first, StarCraft II is, I think when it came out, it was just kind of referred to as StarCraft II. Wings of Liberty is the like Terran campaign specific for it. Then there's 2 expansions for StarCraft II in Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void, which include Zerg and Protoss campaigns respectively. Those came out in I think 2013, 2015, and I will get to those later, probably in the next 2 weeks for episodes, or for those episodes. I'm not doing 4 episodes for all of them, just 2 for those 2. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing probably 1 episode. My guess is a little bit shorter for Wings of Liberty, since there's a lot of missions for Wings of Liberty, but it's easier to kind of go through them all, I think. I think they're faster to go through, I should say. I'll get into just a little bit. So Wings of Liberty itself is a really, 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 really good campaign. I'd say probably the best campaign out of any of them in StarCraft. It's like better than the ones that precede it in all of StarCraft and Brood War, and it's better than all of the ones that succeed it in Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void and Nova Covert Ops, which I might do an episode on. I don't know. I'll see how long the Legacy of the Void episode goes on for, and if I have some decent amount of time, I might tack on just kind of summarizing what happens in Nova Covert Ops, because that one is not the best campaign. It's also only like 8 missions, so it's not exactly long. But yeah, for Wings of Liberty, I guess I can just kind of delve into the context for it. So when last we left off with StarCraft Brood War, Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades, Sarah Kerrigan, former Dominion Ghost, I guess she was never technically in the Dominion because the Dominion never formed, former Ghost who was part of the Confederacy, then fought for the Sons of Korhal, served directly under Arcturus Mengsk before she kind of got a little suspicious of his motivations, and then he abandoned her to the Zerg. The Zerg then took her in and invested her, turned her into a very superpowered individual, also kind of corrupting her motives along the way. And so after the Overmind was killed at the end of StarCraft 1, the base game, she basically manipulated events all throughout StarCraft Brood War into her favor, taking control of the Zerg and basically defeating all of her enemies. Like the entire final campaign in that one, the Queen of Blades campaign, aptly titled, is basically Kerrigan just wiping out all of her enemies. She takes out Jim and his forces. She takes out Phoenix, kills him, takes out the Dominion, kills Edmund Duke, and cripples them. Kills the entirety of the UED except for like a couple stragglers who become mercenaries, I think. But like the UED basically never shows up again. They don't show up at all in StarCraft 2. They are a complete non-factor. And then also the Artanis's Protoss forces, they get demolished. Like the Protoss on Shakuras also get demolished. Like Kerrigan is living life. And so at the end of StarCraft 1, she's basically like, all right, I'll let you all have some time to rebuild, because if I defeat you now, it would just be boring. So she dips for what it winds up being 4 years. In those 4 years, the Protoss kind of rebuild. They kind of they become known as the Daylom, which I think is kind of the faction name that kind of encompasses both the High Templar and Dark Templar aspects, led by Artanis. They don't show up too much in Wings of Liberty, but that's what kind of they're up to. They're just kind of rebuilding at this point after the loss of Ire. The Zerg are at this point kind of retreated and biding their time, building up. And then the Terran is the Dominion, which are, well, they're led by Arcturus Mengsk, the Emperor, and they have expanded greatly in the 4 years since the end of Brood War. They've rebuilt basically after they've rebuilt everything and then some after being taken over by the UED, then getting back their Dominion and Core Hall from the UED, and then getting betrayed by Kerrigan again. So they've gone through a lot, but they're back, and they're still as terrible as ever. Don't get it twisted. The Dominion as a whole is not a good faction. They are very terrible people, especially Manx. Manx is a very terrible, terrible person. Not everyone of the Dominion is bad, but it's your typical authoritarian government, militaristic government. And then finally we have Jim Raynor, who, after vowing to be the one to kill Kerrigan after she betrayed Duke and Phoenix, largely Phoenix. I don't think he really cared about Duke all that much, but it's largely, the stabbing them all in the back and killing a bunch of Protoss and Phoenix. Raynor was like, I will be the man to kill you one day. I think that's an exact quote he says after the end of that surprise attack mission. I think it's mission 6 in the Brood War campaign. For the Zerg campaign, I should specify. But in the meantime, while Jim obviously has that on his mind, he's also gone back to his old rebel stuff. So he is leading his band of rebels known as Raynor's Raiders, and they are taking the fight to the Dominion, trying to rightfully take down Arcturus Mengsk, because Raynor knows just how bad of a person Mengsk is. So he's been doing that. So that is where we pick back up. We actually start off where we start off in the first game with the Terran campaign on Mar Sara, which, after surviving the Zerg infestation in StarCraft 1 and then getting glassed a little bit by the Protoss and Tassadar, Mar Sara is still as crappy as it was beforehand. It's just now in high definition, basically, and the third dimension, kind of. But yeah, Mar Sara it's whatever. It's like this wasteland backwater. And so you pick up with Raynor, and he's just kind of chilling in a bar. He's become a bit of an alcoholic now. And I accidentally just closed a tab that had all of the information that I needed. Oops, give me one sec. I was trying to switch tabs and I accidentally pressed the X instead. But yeah, so Raynor's just kind of chilling in, I think it's called Joey Ray's bar. And he's watching the news. The news is actually it's a pretty big deal. I think it's called UNN is the main Dominion news network, and it's great. It's so good. There's the news anchor is Donnie Vermillion, and he's great. He's one of the best characters in the game. Not gonna lie. So I'll actually skip back a little bit to the announcement trailer for StarCraft II, which is also sort of the trailer for Wings of Liberty in a sense, kind of. It was basically, it was literally the trailer that they used to announce Wings of Liberty, at, I think BlizzCon. I want to say it was BlizzCon, BlizzCon 2020 or something like that. But it depicts a man known as Tychus Finley, who is a prisoner, a former rebel and mercenary, and all around just kind of not a great dude. And he's a prisoner at this point of the Dominion. And he's walking into a test, he's walking into this thing that suits him up with a very large marine suit. I think it's even bigger than the usual one. And you get a voiceover of Mengsk, who's basically narrating a little bit. And essentially the very TLDR is that Tychus is basically trading out a typical prison for the suit of armor, which is now a mobile prison. He physically cannot get out of the armor. It's basically welded shut to him. He's serving out the remainder of his sentence in there. He makes a deal with Mansk that does not get revealed until much later, but he then is able to sort of become a free man and is basically let loose on the wild, though not without reasons for from Manx, but that again does not get revealed later. Just for what we know, though, is that Tychus was once a friend of Jim Raynor way back in the day, like back before Raynor even became a marshal on Marsara. It was like he was a mercenary and rebel and freedom fighter before then. Like I think rebel against, I don't know exactly. Because this is stuff that's not exactly covered in the games, but they are friends from way back in the day. Tychus shows up in a little bit, but so the first mission is Liberation Day, and if I can find it, it is basically your tutorial mission of like, this is Jim Raynor, this is a Terran Marine. You can move your Marine and shoot the enemy Marines, and that's how you win. It's a very, very simple mission. And you just kind of walk down a corridor, you fight some Marines, you find some hollow boards that are of Mansk, and he's like talking and spreading his propaganda. So you got to go and blow them all up. And it's like, it teaches you like, hey, there's bonus objectives now in this because it's 2010. We can program our game better. So they do that, and then they just forget that they forget to add an actual reward for the first bonus mission in the game. It's really weird. It's like, it tells you to blow up these 6 Dominion hollow boards as a bonus, and you just get nothing for it. You shut Mansk up, which is always fun. But other than that, there's no reward. But you basically, you walk down a couple streets, you find the occasional civilian who's like very scared out of their mind. I don't know what kind of accent I just put on there. But yeah, no, you find some civilians. They are not having a good time. The Dominion is basically as you go on, you've learned that the Dominion is rounding up a bunch of civilians and taking them off to some sort of dig site. There's even at one point a civilian who tries to run away, and a couple of the Marines gun that civilian down in cold blood. So you and the boys go and free all the civilians, and then the civilians, once they're kind of free of the Dominion guarding them, they join you up and start rioting as you go and attack a logistics headquarters, is what the objective is called. And you just call it, you incite a rebellion, essentially. You're doing what you usually do as a rebel. And you blow it up and things are all good. You fight some Vikings, one of the new units in StarCraft II, which is a really cool unit where it's this pretty mobile flyer and very good flyer, like that has dedicated anti-air missiles. And then it can also land on the ground and turns into a walker that has kind of decent anti-armor Gatling guns. There's when I get to next week for the Heart of the Swarm campaign, the opening cinematic for that, which I am going to restate when I get to that, but the opening cinematic for the Heart of the Swarm is so good, and there's a scene with a Viking in it that is, oh my god, the Vikings are so cool. The game designers were cooking when they were coming up with the new units in StarCraft II. I'll just say that. So after Liberation Day, Tychus shows up in the bar, because the bar, Joey Ray's bar, is basically the initial starting point for you, because instead of StarCraft 1, where you have the like pre-mission Zoom calls, as I like to call them, where it's like you just have a static screen with the occasional character portrait popping up, and they'll like talk a little bit about the upcoming mission and provide some background and like lore and character stuff. This in StarCraft 2, you have more of like a hub area that gets expanded on later after we get through the first, like the opening tutorial missions. But the first hub area is Joey Ray's bar. You basically, you're looking at Raynor sitting at the bar. He's like drinking some whiskey or whatever. And like you can interact with the news. Then you can like interact with various stuff in the background. And it's like very simple. And then Tychus shows up in a cutscene and he's like, hey, Jimmy, I'm back. Let's go have some fun. And Raynor's like, all right, sure, let's go. And Tychus basically has a cover story where he's like, these guys called Mobius Foundation, they're these weird science dudes. I don't really know, because Tychus is very much a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy. But he's like, hey, there's these science dudes and they want to do some science stuff. And they're paying for my like parole, essentially. So we got to go find these artifacts that are related to some like Zelnaga or something like that. I don't really know. but let's go find them. There's apparently one like nearby that had some dig site that the Dominion have. So let's go get it. And Rainer's like, all right, sure, let's go do some weird alien stuff with the Zelnaga. And so yeah, that gets us to mission number 2, the Outlaws, which has you assaulting the dig site. You get introduced to the medic, which is a very, very useful unit. Makes like the Marine medic combo in the early game of StarCraft II for the campaign is really, really strong. There's like a bonus mission to go rescue some rebels. So you basically just get another barracks and some more units. It's a very simple mission. You go up and you fight a bunker. You find some Hellions. Hellions are these like very fast kind of car. They're basically cars. They're like 4-wheeled off-roading vehicles that have a giant flamethrower attached to the top of them. They are, you get them later on in the campaign, and I will reiterate when I get to them. In that mission, Hellions are not good in the campaign at all. They are really bad. They're much better in multiplayer since they are a dedicated harassment unit. Like they are very fast, so they're hard to pin down and get rid of, and they're designed to like sneak into your base, harass the workers, and all that stuff. But when you're fighting an AI that like usually has unlimited resources, or actually getting into their base is usually the final objective, and it's very heavily defended, Hellions are not super useful. And fighting against them, they can be a little annoying, especially if you only have infantry, like in this mission. But still, they are not super useful. There's also, on harder difficulties, there's a siege tank that shows up in the back of the enemy base on this one, which can be a little annoying because siege tanks are love, siege tanks are life. They're not quite as insane as they were in StarCraft 1, but the siege tanks are still really, really good. And fighting enemy siege tanks is never fun. And so eventually, though, you do with the boys and the girls this time, because you have the medics, with Rainer's Raiders, you're able to break down the Dominion defenses, take over the outpost, and secure the Zelnaga artifact. That's what it's called. And you take it to Backwater Station, so a throwback to StarCraft 1. This is a very similar opening to StarCraft 1's opening in Rebel Yell as well, I will say. And like there's some more news, and you get a little bit of Mansk and all that, and it's very simple. The opening section on Marsara is very simple. So the third mission is 0 hour. So you get a warning that, as you're preparing to leave, you're waiting for your ship to arrive, the Hyperion, which, just for a reminder, the Hyperion was once Arcturus' Manx flagship back in, like, even before the Dominion, like back when he was just working as the Sons of Korhal. After the events of the Battle of Tarsonis, which is where Kerrigan got abandoned to the Zerg, Mansk and Duke used a bunch of psi emitters to draw Zerg to Tarsonis, which is the Confederate capital, to basically destroy it and take down the Confederacy. Mansk, I guess, somehow lost control of his flagship, led by Matt Horner, Admiral Matt Horner, who, along with Raynor, basically stole the ship and used it as their own flagship as they went and did stuff. You get to use the Hyperion twice in the Protoss campaign, late in the base game, in missions 8 and 10, if I remember correctly. But anyway, so we'll see the Hyperion in a little bit. But 0 hour is a really boring defense mission, so very similar to the mission 3 in the base campaign, or not in the base, in StarCraft 1 as well. You just hold out for like 30 minutes, since the Zerg show up, since they're apparently attracted to the artifact for some reason. They're seeking it out, so you got to defend against it. You can go around and find some extra stranded Marines and medics along the way. And I mean, like if you're good enough, you can actually build up a force and go out and basically just destroy all the hives around the map, which is always fun to do. And you could also find an Easter egg like way back in the back corner of the map. If you fight through a bunch of the enemy, there's an outhouse where if you like walk up to it, you can find a Tauren Marine. Tauren being a species that's like kind of like a Minotaur, but like it's from Warcraft is what it's from, another Blizzard property, and they're kind of like a Minotaur. Essentially, they're a bipedal bovine. Essentially, is the best way I can describe it. But yeah, there's a Tauren dressed in a Marine suit, and you can find him, and it'll go into the outhouse, and then the outhouse will launch out like a rocket, and you can find the outhouse like flying around in a couple of different missions is always kind of fun. It's a nice little Easter egg. But yeah, so the 0 Hour is a pretty not interesting mission. You just hold out for like 30 minutes, and then the Hyperion shows up and just blasts everything, and it picks you up, picks the artifact up as well, and then you leave Marsara as the Zerg show back up again, and then you get a little newsreel after that, and you, Tychus, or I guess not necessarily you, Raynor, Tychus, and Matt are seeing the news, and that Marsara is not the only place that is under attack, but instead it's a lot of worlds, a lot of Terran worlds, as the Zerg are back in force, and of course, who would be leading them but none other than Sarah Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades. There's like a video footage of her looking all spooky and stuff, all glowy and orange. And yeah, so Kerrigan's back. Things are getting into second gear now at this point. And the real campaign starts. The tutorial missions are over and the real campaign starts. And this is where I'm going to shift into a quick gameplay segment here, or talking about how the game is structured, because unlike base StarCraft 1 and Brood War, Wings of Liberty is open-ended, essentially. Not completely, but there's not one linear path to take for the missions. There's like 20-something missions? A little over 20 missions in this. Let me actually see if I can count. So 4, 5, so that's 9, 11, 13, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. 26 or 27, depending on if I miscounted or not, plus the 3 at the beginning. So there's a good bit of missions here. And while initially there's only 2 get unlocked at the start, as you progress further, there's 5 different storylines essentially that have clusters of missions in them. There's the main storyline, quote unquote, where you're like collecting more of the artifacts, and that eventually gets you to the end game. But there's also multiple other branching storylines as well that have to deal with other stuff. And I'll basically be running down each of the storylines, just like going down the list essentially. So I'm not like flipping around so you don't get too confused. But yeah, it's a really fun thing where the Wings of Liberty campaign it kind of adds a bit of a roguelike feel to it. It's more of a roguelite, I'd say, where the missions themselves are all RTS, but the construction of how you get there and the stuff that you can do in between is a bit more something you'd find in, I don't know too many like older roguelikes, but like something like FTL Faster Than Light, Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, those kind of roguelites in a sense. It's like similar kind of vibes to that. And it's really fun. It makes it so that the replayability of Wings of Liberty is incredible. Even more so than Heart of the Swarm and Legacy of the Void, that still have some of the aspects, but they're not quite as well executed, I'd say. But Wings of Liberty it's just really good. The upgrades you get along the way, because you can upgrade your units as well as getting research, it's very, very nice. So like the bonus missions essentially that you get basically give you more money, and money you use to spend on upgrades. There's also some other bonus missions that I'll get to that provide research, but money is basically used on mainly 2 things. One is in the armory, where I think you can go to immediately after you get to the Hyperion, because the Hyperion has multiple different rooms. So you have the bridge, which is where you can find Matt Horner, and you also select your mission, and also the archives. There's the cantina, where you can usually find Tychus, as well as higher mercenaries. Mercenaries are higher, in they're reskinned versions of units that are stronger, basically just have better stats, and they look a little different. They can be summoned essentially at a specific building for a higher price of resources, and they only have a limited number of times you can actually summon them essentially, or buy them on the in the mission essentially. and there's a cooldown as well. But they are very useful because you can just like if you have some extra money in the bank, you can just press the button in the mercenary compound and you can call them down free of, I mean, not really free of charge, but like, just as a little bit extra. You don't have to invest. You don't really have to invest too many in production structures or like tech upgrades to like get to some of the higher tech mercenaries, like say like your Banshees or your Vikings or a battle cruiser. And even like the barrack stuff, like the Marines or the Firebats or the Marauders. And I'm spoiling some of the units that you get, but it's, I mean, this game is 16 years old at this point, so it's whatever. But yeah, the mercenary compound's pretty cool. And then for the other rooms, there's the armory, which is where you can find Rory Swan. Swan is a very fun character. I think he's like former Kelmorian, so he's like former Miners Guild kind of guy, but he's very willing to fight against the Dominion. I don't know. He doesn't really have like a thick Southern accent, but he's got a little bit. He also likes to give nicknames to everyone. And he's a fun guy. He's pretty laid back and down to earth most of the time, and he's always fun to chat with. And then in the armory, you can like upgrade your units. So the first one that you always kind of look to get is combat shields for your Marines, which is actually an upgrade you can get in multiplayer as well. And it gives a Marine a little shield and it gives them 10 HP. So it's very simple. Just makes your Marines a little bit beefier. I think the other upgrade is Stimpaks, which is another thing that you can upgrade in multiplayer, but it's classic from StarCraft 1 as well, where if you use a Stimpak, they take like a fourth of their HP and damage for a 10 to 15 second increase in damage and speed. By a lot. Also, Stim is really good, especially when you pair them with medics. Stim is really good. Like I think the medic upgrades are like increased heal rate, and then along with energy regeneration, which like I think it's called stabilizer med packs, and that upgrade is insanely good. And then I think the other one is that medics can. I think it's that medics don't need a tech lab is the other one. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. And it's basically the barracks have an add-on. You can actually choose between two. A reactor it can produce double the amount of units. So it's instead of making one Marine at a time, you can make two Marines at a time, but you can't make any of the units that require tech lab. So that's medics, Marauders, Firebats, or Ghosts, or Spectres, depending on which one you choose, but I'll get to them in a little bit. Meanwhile, the tech lab is one where you get the normal production time, but you can also, use the other units. Tech lab is more useful in multiplayer because that is where you actually research upgrades like combat shield and Stimpaks and whatnot. But in the campaign, tech labs is really just there to actually be able to produce units. It's the same for factories and starports. But I'm getting very into the the ins and outs of how you actually play the game. I'll get back to the story here. But yeah, so that's the armory. The lab is something that you actually don't get access to it until after you complete your fourth mission. So it's whichever one you go to first between the two starting missions of the actual campaign. But the lab is where you can find Egon Stetman, who is your very, very typical like nerdy scientist who's very jumpy and kind of socially awkward. He gets a lot more characterization in co-op later down the line, but that's something for another day. But yeah, the lab is where you can use the research that you get from bonus missions. Basically is that you can find relics like either Zerg samples from like dead Zerg, like Devilers or stuff like that. Since Devilers actually don't show up in StarCraft II at all, except for Nova Covert Ops. But you can find like Defiler bones and get some stuff there. That's really just entirely aesthetic purposes. And then when you fight against Protoss, you can also find Protoss research. So it's basically the Protoss and Zerg research lines are 5 pairs of upgrades, permanent upgrades that you can choose between one or the other. And they get more powerful as they go along. I think the first Zerg one is a permanent upgrade for bunkers, which if you don't know, bunkers are a structure. They are a defensive structure. You basically build it. It sits in place and you can load up infantry into it. Usually Marines are usually the best ones to load up into it. And you can usually load up 4 into a bunker. They get some increased range, and the bunker has like 250 HP. So, and you can also repair it with SCVs. So it's a very, very tough defensive fortification. And then the permanent upgrade between the two is the Shrike turret, and I think it's Neo Steel plating or something like that. But it's basically the Shrike turret it has a little turret on the top with the damage output of 1 Marine. So it's basically you get 1 extra Marine per bunker, but you don't have to man an extra Marine. The other one is, I think it adds like 100 plus HP to the bunker, and you can add 2 extra units to it. That upgrade is so much better than the Shrike turret. The Shrike turret is a meme. It is a terrible upgrade. I remember when I first played it, and I had no idea how to play RTSs whatsoever, and I was like completely clueless. I saw that, and I was choosing it for the first time. I was like, oh yeah, the bunker has a turret on it. That'll make it so much better. I'll go with that, because who needs extra HP? It's already tanky enough. I was not very smart when I did that. I'll just say that. But all right, let's actually get back to the missions, because we're 30 minutes in and I've only gone through 3 missions. I promise I will go faster. So the first choice that you have is between 2 missions, the evacuation and smash and grab. Smash and grab is Tyke is like, hey, Mobius Scores found another artifact. Let's go nab it. But we're going to ignore Tychus for now, because that is actually the main quest line. And I'm going to say that for last, because that will lead into the final 3 missions, and that's obviously going to save that for the finale. So I'm going to go through this sort of like other missions in a sense first. So the other one, the evacuation, you get a distress call from a woman named Dr. Ariel Hansen on the planet of Agria, if I remember correctly. And she's basically saying, help, we're a Dominion colony, like on the edge of Dominion territory. We've been abandoned by the Dominion, and we can use some help because the Zerg are invading. So you got to go evacuate them. And Jim's like, all right, let's go do that. So you talk to Dr. Hansen, and she's like, hey, thanks for coming. I need your help, please. We're dying. And Jim's like, all right, yeah, let's help. So you go and you land, and you get unlock the Firebat. The Firebat, which is also in StarCraft 1. Firebat in StarCraft 1 was actually not too bad. It had some decent armor, and the actual attacks were pretty good, and they're really good against Zerglings. And in StarCraft 1, when the Zerglings were really, really good, the Firebat was, nice to have. But in StarCraft 2, unfortunately, the Firebat is terrible. It's decently bulky, but the windup it has on its attack is so slow that it's just not worth it. It also doesn't do a lot of damage, and Zerglings are significantly worse in StarCraft 2 than they are in StarCraft 1. They're not bad per se. They're not like nearly as insane as they were in StarCraft 1. And so because of that, the Firebat doesn't really do anything else that's good outside of killing Zerglings. Because there's no real other like swarmy type of enemy outside of the Zergling. And that's like, the Firebat needs to be in melee range essentially, and it needs to, it's only really good against like lightly armored, low health units, because otherwise you'd probably just want, like, if you want bulk, you'd make a Marauder, which you would get in the other mission at Smash and Grab, which is like even more bulky for basically the same price and has much longer range, and it's more dedicated anti-armor stuff. But if you want anti-light, just make Marines, because Marines are really good. They weren't great in StarCraft 1 because you can only command 12 of them, and the pathing was terrible. But in StarCraft 2, the amount of units you can command in one single like control group, it goes up from 12 to 200. Marines are so much better. Marines are actually really, really, really good in StarCraft 2. Firebats are terrible. And like in this mission, you can basically just go mass Marine and you'll be fine. Like if you want to make Firebats, you can, but you just go mass Marine. And basically the whole thing is that you start out on at a little base on the bottom. It's kind of more of like an outpost. And there's a starport at the top, although it's like not the building starport like that you use to make units, but it's more of like a platform with a bunch of hangars and some ships to basically ferry off all the colonists, because basically, as the mission title suggests, you're trying to evacuate all of the or as many civilians as you can off planet before the Zerg show up en masse. And yeah, so it's basically you have a sort of armored personnel carrier that you have to escort down a road while being attacked from Zerg on all sides. There's like multiple different choke points that these Zerg will come from. So it's a very early mission that teaches you how to like be like both manage your base at home, like to macro up, while also like being vigilant of like a moving objective. So it's like to speak highly of the game design, because the Wings of Liberty game design and like level design and all that is really, really well done. It's a very simple expansion of like how you already kind of know how things work. Like you already know you've already been taught how to macro, how to micro. Now it's kind of like you got to learn how to do both at the same time with a moving target or a moving objective, and like not one that's just stationary and not one that you can just sit around and build up the whole time. Like you got to be active, and like you can't just neglect everything back at your base while you're escorting the APC as well. You gotta be a little smart about things, and it's good because it's not like super oppressive with the attack waves that it sends, because it builds up with the more colonists you save, like the threat level builds up. But it's at the same time, in theory, you should be building up and having a force to match it. You can also, if you want to, with a lot of missions in this, you can basically, if you have a good enough army and good enough skill, you can go around the map and actually just clear out the enemy bases to mitigate most of the attacks. This one, I don't think it's a free one where if you clear out all the bases, because there's like airdropped attacks from like drop pods and stuff like towards the later waves, but it's still always fun to do, to like go around and clear out the bases that are usually pretty tough to get into. But yeah, anyway, at the end of this, the colonists are evacuated. It's all good. You're doing fine, and you're able to escape. So the next mission in this quest line, the colonist quest line, essentially the Dr. Hansen, the Agria, I don't know. I think it's the colonist quest line is what it's officially called, is known as Outbreak. So this one, and it's also, to go back to the whole roguelite thing, you don't have to go to this mission next after you finish the evacuation. Like, it is entirely optional. You could go back to Smash and Grab, or you could go to the other mission that I think unlocks at this time, which I think is the Devil's Playground. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But yeah, it's like, if you don't want to play this mission, you don't have to. But it's fun. It's fun if you want to, but it's also like, it's a fun game design that you don't have to do it. I will obviously be going through it because I just want to keep doing the stories linearly. So Outbreak is, you basically get a call from Dr. Hansen again. I think at this point, Hansen's actually on your ship. Like, she joins Stetman in the lab to, do science stuff, whatever they're doing. Like, Hansen's more of like a biologist, I think, whereas Stetman's just kind of doing what he does. He's got a lot going on. But Hansen like is specifically researching a cure for the virus that basically just infests Terrans. Like, this is a thing like dating back to StarCraft 1, is that Terrans can get infested by the Zerg and turned all Zergy and stuff. I don't know how many ways I can restate that. And Hansen's trying to research a cure to stop that. But at some point, the place that all the Agrian colonists got relocated to on the planet of Meinhof goes silent, and Hansen's getting worried. So you go and investigate and find that a good chunk of it has been infested, because I guess someone who got loaded onto one of the ships was already infested by that time. They just didn't realize it. And it's, same with any typical zombie infection. It's like someone gets infected and they don't know it, and they go into like a population center, then everything goes wrong. And so they're like, well, we gotta go clear out the infestation and, clear out the outbreak, as the mission title suggests. So this was one where I remember when I started playing this. So once again, I think I told the story of like how I got into StarCraft before, but it's like, I was like I was young. I was still kind of a kid at this point when I was first playing it. Although I don't think I started playing StarCraft II until probably like 2012, 2013, I want to say. Probably 2012, I think is when it was when I first got Wings of Liberty. And I was not very good I was not very good at video games back in the day when I was much younger. And I had a hard time with a lot of StarCraft missions. And this is one where I had a really tough time. And looking back on it, this mission is really, really easy. It's not hard in the slightest. But it's basically, there's a day-night cycle going on. And you're propped in an outpost in the middle of the map. And you're surrounded on all sides by infested Terran and a little bit of Zerg. And so every night the infested show up because they're weak to sunlight. They will literally burst into flames in the sun, and they will attack during the night. But the actual infested Terrans that they send are largely just infested colonists, which are just people, but they're like have claws and stuff, and they walk very slowly and they are very easy to take out. So you can basically just put up a couple bunkers with some fire bats. This is actually like the one good map for the fire bat, like because you stick them on defense, and they can take down most of the infested Terran. But it's basically just bunkers with some Marines and some fire bats can do the job most of the time. This is all the mission where you get the Hellion, and it's again like the one mission where the Hellion's actually like kind of decent on. But if you have the Reaper, which you get on the Devil's Playground, which I'll get to later, the Reaper is insane on this map. But at this point, with how I'm going, you don't have the Reaper, but even then you don't really need it. And essentially, outside of the few infested Marines that show up, which are just slow moving, but slow moving infested Terrans, but they have a gun, so they can actually shoot at range. Those are the only ones that are actually kind of a threat. There's also one other unit called the Aberration that shows up later down the line on the later nights, which is this like towering infested Terran thing that has like giant stake legs and big claws that whack and do a ton of damage. They show up more in detail in Heart of the Swarm. They're not super difficult, but they are a little annoying to get rid of. But in the end, it's like the defense aspect of it is not that hard. And once it gets to daytime, you are literally free to go around. There's basically no resistance outside of a couple like spine crawlers and some of the Zerg bases, but you basically just go around, you destroy all the infested buildings and the Zerg structures, and the goal is just to clear out all of them before you get overwhelmed. And it's one where initially the pressure is high, but as you go on, even while the enemy variety gets a little bit more complex, if you're playing it right, there's just less structures where the infested are spawning from, so there's less pressure overall. So it's a simple balance there. The bonus objective is to find 2 infestors, which are Zerg units that are kind of causing and really accelerating the infestation. They are permanently burrowed underground in the daytime, so you need some way to find them, but they surface at night. So you can, if you want to be risky and go out at night, you can find the infestors there. And if not, there's ways to do it. Like if you have the orbital command center or actually, I don't know what other ways of detection. Maybe a scanner tower. I'm not sure. But anyway, you eventually find them, get them for the 2 Zerg research. Nice and easy, nice and simple. But yeah, after this though, Dr. Hansen's still pretty sad because she's like, we can't find a cure in time, and all my people are dying, and it's very sad. I mean, she's an okay character, not the most exciting in the world. She has some good lines here and there, like with the crew when she's on the Hyperion, but her storyline of trying to find the cure for the infestation it's not the strongest part of the Wings of Liberty story. And that's one thing I will say as we kind of move along is that you might also see is that the Wings of Liberty story parts of it definitely don't hold up to the original StarCraft 1. There are definitely other parts that certainly do. There's some really good parts of the Wings of Liberty storyline, but there's also some other parts that are a little rough here and there. And so the final mission of the Colonist questline, because this one has only 3 missions to it, technically 4 actually, is that you have a split mission. One of the 3 split missions in the game. Essentially, there you are offered a choice. So eventually, Hansen calls you up again. She's located a planet known as Haven, and it's like seemingly untouched by the Zerg, untouched by even the Dominion. I don't know if they. I think it's just they call it Haven because it's like, hey, it's a haven for us. It's a safe haven for us to, not deal with the Zerg anymore. We'll be fine there. And so Hansen's there, and she's like, hey, let's go settle our colonists there. We've already sent out a couple already, and they're setting up camp there. So you go over to Haven, and you find some Protoss there. And you get called by the Protoss, and it's Selendis who shows up. And Selendis is someone who she is a Protoss High Executor at this point. Actually, she might just be an Executor. I think it's High Executor is a rank she gets in a mission that comes up later. But yeah, Selendis shows up, and she's like, oh, hi, Raynor. We fought kind of together back in StarCraft 1. So you're my friend. And Raynor's like, yeah, I like you. Because this is the Daylon Protoss. Like, these are the good guys, the good guy Protoss. Not villains at all. But Selendis shows up and basically just says that the Zerg have been detected infesting the colony again. Well, I guess not again, because she doesn't know that the colony's been infested before, but like she's basically flying around in a purifier fleet, purifying Zerg worlds, as Tastar once did back in the day. And she's detecting some Zerg in the Terran colonists. And, she's like, all right, we need to get rid of them because it's the Zerg and there's no cure for them. And then Hansen's like, no, we can't do that. We got to save them and not kill them all. And, we got to find a cure. So you're basically given the choice of either side with Hansen against the Protoss and hope that Hansen can find a cure, or side with the Protoss against Hansen to basically cleanse all of the infested Terrans once more. Since that is basically all like how to deal with Zerg. So it's either going for a slim chance at hope and having to fight against the Protoss, or going with the typical route and fighting against the Zerg. And I think it's actually determined that siding with Hansen is the canon outcome. I don't like this, by the way. I don't think this is the right choice, because as much as I don't like having to cleanse through a bunch of infested structures, the whole inventing a cure for the Zerg virus is kind of lame, since it's so the mission Safe Haven, which is the one where you side with Hansen and the canon outcome essentially. Hansen eventually does develop the cure. I think is what it says. She eventually does develop a cure, but it's it never gets brought up again. Essentially, it's just never brought up again, and it's kind of disappointing. But my bigger issue with this is that you have to fight the Protoss, and I hate that you have to fight the Protoss here, because I don't care how much Selendis says it's honorable combat. The Protoss are willing to die in honorable combat and whatnot. This is not honorable combat. You're both on the same side. You should be fighting the Zerg that are there. It's really frustrating, and the mission's also not very good. You get introduced, or you get the Viking in this mission, which the Viking is great. It's just the mission in this one is way overtuned in favor of the Viking. There's basically, you have multiple colonist base that you have to defend against the Purifier mothership, which is this big Protoss mothership, one of the new units in StarCraft II. And it's basically, it'll float around to the base, each colonist base that is still not infested yet, but it's supposedly infested. They haven't turned yet, essentially. And the Purifier will just charge up a giant laser beam and then destroy the base. It's a very slow process, and has a indestructible shield that's powered by 3 Nexi all around the map. And so you got to fly around your Vikings and blow up the Nexi to depower shields, and then go fight the mothership. The Nexi are really easy to take down because the Vikings have very good mobility, and the mission design around it, the level design makes it really easy to get rid of them. And then once you do, the mothership itself is a boss fight that is lame, because the Vikings have more range than it, so it literally can do nothing to you. So you just you float around it, shoot it with a bunch of missiles as it does nothing and dies. It's really bad. I don't like this mission at all. like in the slightest. And then Hansen leaves to go be with her people to hopefully find a cure, which I guess she does eventually. She gives a kiss to Raynor because I guess they kind of develop a relationship or something. I don't know. I think Jim is just kind of a ladies' man, even though he's like always had his sights set on Kerrigan the whole time. It's not a great mission in my opinion. And so yeah, this is the A canon where Hansen leaves to be with her people after you kill a bunch of Protoss, which I just don't like. I'm also I'm a fan of Protoss, so I don't like seeing Protoss die. But it's like Raynor and Celestis are on the same side. Like I don't like the fact that you have to fight against them and kill them. It like Celestis lives and all that, but it's like some of our people don't, and it's stupid. The other mission, if we were just side with Celestis, is known as Haven's Fall. It's basically you are going around just killing a bunch of Zerg structures and you're kind of play whack-a-mole with some Zerg that are trying to infest the few remaining colonist structures and like outposts that are around. Once again, you're introduced to the Viking. This one I feel like is better suited, or like it's not as completely overtuned as Safe Haven, where you are using the Vikings' ability to actually fly around the map and engage targets in the air before they can get to the ground, but you can also shift them into the ground if things get bad. It's just a much better, I think it's a better mission design, and I think that it makes more sense story-wise. And so like basically the entire map is filled with Zerg and you got to get rid of it. It's pretty simple. Like one thing I will kind of complain about in StarCraft II as a whole compared to StarCraft 1 is that the mission design is not nearly as creative as StarCraft 1 was. Like the actual context and like level design, I think is like makes up for it. But the objectives and like how you start out and whatnot is significantly more bog standard. Cause like basically I feel like 90% of the StarCraft missions you play, you basically start out with like a small contingent of units. Usually you'll also start with a base already in action. And then you like a couple minutes in, you'll get introduced to the new unit if there's a new unit. And there's like no, like outside of a couple missions where there's like a small segment at the beginning, there's no like unique starter mission. And most of the time the missions are usually just, clear the map or defend an objective or attack an objective. It's the mission design is not something that I think is StarCraft 2's strong suit compared to StarCraft 1. Cause like, especially in Brood War, I think the mission design was better. Like even going the Zerg campaign to be specific, like the first mission is interesting enough where you're having to go around and rescue all the different hives in different sequences and whatnot. The like mission 2 is the one where you have to like the first half is going around finding a bunch of feral Zerg and turning them to your side, and then you start to build up, and then you have to go assault the base, but anyway. Mission 3 is like you have to go mine the 10,000 minerals, and then mission 4 is you use the 10,000 minerals to go and fight the Terran or like the UED on Core Hall. I might be missing a mission here and there, but anyway, I'll try not to sidechain too much anymore because this is going on long enough. Very TLDR. I think the mission design in StarCraft 2 is weaker than StarCraft 1. That is the point that I was trying to make. But yeah, so in the end, like as you progress the mission, Matt Horner kind of contacts you and tells you like Hansen's kind of locked herself in the lab because she's like getting desperate to find a cure to try and stop this and whatnot. And eventually the ending cutscene for after you beat the mission is that you go into Raynor goes into the lab because you're not playing as Raynor. Raynor's kind of the main character here. I should shift to just saying that. But Raynor goes into the lab, finds that Hansen's actually been infected. I think it's actually she infected herself with the Zerg virus to try and test her cure, which obviously fails because you find her basically half Zerg at this point, and she attacks Raynor, and Raynor has to put her down. It feels more in line with StarCraft 1, where StarCraft 1 is a bit more like not like happy endings and all that, and like a bit more gritty and brutal. I wouldn't say like dark and realistic. The like like gritty realism or whatever you want to call it, but it's like StarCraft 2 is a lot more upbeat and lighthearted overall. Like there's certainly plenty of moments that are dark, but overall the like outcomes for a lot of these stories are a lot more lighthearted than say StarCraft 1. And that has certainly been a big contention in the fandom for the direction and the tone that StarCraft 2 took compared to StarCraft 1. But anyway, I will continue to go faster here to try and get through the rest of these because there's still a lot of missions to go. All right, so let's go to the Devil's Playground. You get contacted by a man named Gabriel Tosh. He's this mysterious kind of like voodoo guy is the best way I can describe him. And he's like, hey, let's go. I want to make a deal with you and, become allies and whatnot. So there's this planet called Redstone 3. It's got a lot of these really valuable minerals. So I figured I was mining them before, but my guys went dark. So let's go so we can work together and we can share the profits essentially. So you go to Redstone and there's lava everywhere. And it's basically these gold minerals that you have to mine. These Dorium crystals are very valuable. You have to mine 8,000 minerals worth of them. So this is actually, as I was just complaining about bad mission design, this is actually the one that is very different. But this is one that is pretty nice. And I think that my complaints for mission design were more including StarCraft 2 as a whole, like including Heart of the Swarm and Wings of Liberty and Legacy of the Void. Because Wings of Liberty does have some pretty decent mission designs here and there, but overall I think it's weaker than StarCraft 1. But anyway, Devil's Playground, you get the Reaper, which is this fragile but high mobility, high damage raider that can jump up and down cliffs and stuff, so it's pretty fun. It's very useful in multiplayer, not as useful in the campaign, but it's useful in this map to basically go around. You fight some Zerg, you find some more of the Reapers, you find Tosh's old buddies who are basically just kind of hiding out from the Zerg. So you rescue them, you get the 8,000 minerals, you fight a Brutalist, which is this big giant Zerg thing, and you can lead it into lava, which is always fun. And then, you get Tosh as a buddy, he joins your ship. Horner's a little suspicious, since Horner is a very straight-laced guy. Horner's a great character. Matt Horner is, he's the guy that everyone needs for like this kind of crew where it's Raynor's kind of he's the figurehead and the leader and the charismatic guy, but he's also got a little bit of a rough edge to him. And Tychus is Tychus. He's I don't know. He's just kind of doing his own thing. But Horner is very straight-laced. He's very respectful. He's basically a former Confederate admiral, I think is what it was. So he's got the military training, he's got the discipline, and he's obviously very suspicious of Tosh because he doesn't really know anything about him, and he knows what he does know is that Tosh is a very dangerous person. So he's not quite sure it's worth having Tosh on board, but Tosh is actually pretty cool. I like Tosh. So you get Tosh, you get the money, and Tosh is like, hey, we got some more stuff to do, but let's have some fun together. So the second mission is Welcome to the Jungle. We've got fun and games. We got everything you want. I don't remember the rest of the lyrics for that line. But that's a Guns N' Roses song. So you go to the planet of somewhere, actually. Belshir, that's what it's called, which is home to some Protoss and also a special gas known as Terrazine. Terrazine is basically a drug, is the best way I can describe it. It's basically an acid trip in space. And it's this. It's very, very highly coveted by a faction of the Protoss known as the Tal'Darim. This can potentially be your first encounter with the Tal'Darim. You also encounter them in Smash and Grab, which you probably will do beforehand. This mission is also pretty tough for like kind of early in the game. You get the Goliath during this mission, which is another unit from StarCraft 1, not with good pathing. Goliath is a kind of flimsy armored walker that has good anti-ground and good anti-air range. It's a good all-arounder, just doesn't quite have the bulk that you might maybe want, but it's still a solid unit all around. And so this is one where Tosh is like, we need to get the Terrazine. Unfortunately, the Tal'Darim are going to be, angry at us for stealing it. They consider it the breath of creation. And so it's basically, the Tal'Darim have a lot of high-tech stuff and a lot of very powerful units. They also have the only warp-in Colossus in all of StarCraft II. The Colossus is a new unit out of this game. Giant Strider that has a long range beam that does area damage. A lot of Protoss units will warp in, especially in the campaigns when it's scripted. The Colossus is, in this mission, is the only one that ever gets warped in all of the missions. So a little fun fact there. I watched a lot of Giant Crack games over the past couple of years, and that's like gotten me back into StarCraft a lot. So that's why I know this little tidbit, because he pointed out on that. But this mission is like you see the Tall Dream, and that they are extremists and fanatics and just kind of crazy. And yeah, this is more of a get in, get the stuff, and get out, because I mean, it's certainly possible to actually take down the super base that the Protoss has in the back, but you do not need to at all. This is one where you have to manage your resources and manage your time effectively and try and get in and out as fast as possible. And so you do. You get the Terrazine, and then you get to the second split choice. So as Tosh is like getting ready to tell you the final step of the plan, he's basically telling you, so there's a group of like Terran ghosts essentially that were kind of given their own little program called the Spectre program, which are basically just differentiating, like they're not ghosts, like they're ghosts, but they're not ghosts. And so Tosh is sort of like the leader of the Spectres. They're all currently imprisoned on a place called New Folsom. So it's Folsom Prison, but new on a planet. So you got to go break them out. That is the mission breakout is what it's called. That is certainly a choice if you decide to side with Tosh. You also get a call from the Terran ghost Nova, who works for the Dominion. And so it's always a fun thing that shows up. So Nova calls you, and it's supposed to be a big thing because Nova was supposed to be the protagonist of the titular game StarCraft Nova, which was, I think, supposed to come out for either the Xbox or Xbox 360. I don't remember exactly, but like a couple years before StarCraft II, essentially. It was like, I think like a first person or third person shooter, like very different game, not an RTS, with Nova as the main protagonist. And she was sort of like, in lore, she kind of is groomed to be this like Kerrigan 2.0, essentially. Like she's a Terran ghost, she's young, she's like getting super skilled and all that. So she's like very similar to what Kerrigan was with Mansk back in the day. But she is now, actually loyal to the Dominion and not getting abandoned on New Gettysburg and whatnot. Nova's actually pretty cool though. But in this one, because she did not have her own game because for some reason got canceled, I don't remember why, she just kind of shows up and you're like, who are you? Like, I think Raynor knows who she is, but like you as the player is like, who is this person? Why should we trust her? Because like she works for the Dominion, like she's working for the bad guys. But she basically shows them like, hey, so Tosh is lying to you, and the Spectres are basically just psychotic murderers, and they're in prison for a reason. So please don't break them out. You are doing a bad thing. So you can actually side with her. That is the non-canon option. So this is the canon option that I certainly agree with, is siding with Tosh in Breakout. So it's basically it's actually a pretty fun one where Raynor and the Raynor's Raiders are basically an AI controlled like macro-ish kind of thing. It's like they're playing normal StarCraft, whereas you just control Tosh and he's very strong, and you're kind of running through permanently cloaked. You're running through all the enemies and sabotaging them from behind, taking them out. So Raynor's continuous wave of forces can slowly push through the prison defenses. You can liberate some prisoners, and they can hijack a bunch of vehicles along the way. And eventually you get to the like big prison block at the end. You can get some nukes and you can blow up everything. It's a very simple mission, pretty fun mission. In the end you get some Spectres, and they're okay. They're not the best unit in the world, but they're pretty solid. The Ghost is actually kind of a better unit, funnily enough, than the Spectre in the campaign. But the culmination, Tasha's storyline, in terms of actual story, like substance, is not super deep. But there's a lot of like just talking to Tosh in between missions on the Hyperion makes up for it, because Tosh is a very fun character. He's very cool. You can also side against him if you go with Ghost of a Chance, if you choose to believe Nova. So it's actually a pretty neat mission where you play as Nova instead. And there's like 3 different sections. There's like one, you basically have to destroy the Jorium refinement. So it's basically you take down the crystals that you mine of redstone. And the next one's like a terrazine refinement where you have to blow up the terrazine canisters. And then the third one's like a specter mine washing thing. I don't remember exactly, but it's you blow up the stuff that Tosh needs to create more specters. Because and if you're siding with Nova at this point, you're thinking that specters are actually not good people at all. And yeah, so you do that. Nova doesn't join you in the end, but you do it. Basically, the ending cutscene is you get a call from Tosh from like miles or like Tosh is like not on your ship anymore. He's on his own ship or something, and he's like calling Horner and Raynor to gloat about, he's like, you may have beat me now, but I will always get you in the end and whatnot. And he's like, you're a traitor. He's calling Raynor a traitor and whatnot. And there's actually some decent foreshadowing where it's like he's got a voodoo doll of Marine that's supposed to be Raynor. And he's like trying to stab it because he's like he's making the doll of the traitor, but then Tychus is getting all hurt from it. It's a little slight spoilers, but not really. But yeah, so it's eventually in the end is like he's taunting him. Nova shows up. She's cloaked, and then she stabs him in the back of the head and kills him. And she's like shows up and he's like, "Hey, thanks for the help. I'll see you guys later." And then she never shows up again in the campaign. It's one where it's like so not worth it. I mean, story wise, it's not worth it to go for this at all. But gameplay wise, the Ghost is actually better. So it is what it is. But yeah, Nova just kind of dips after this. She doesn't show up again. And yeah, so in the non-canon route, Tosh is dead. In the actual canon route, he's still alive. He's doing fine. So let's go to the next set of missions. The Confederate, actually don't know what the mission chain of this is called. But this is sort of like the Matt Horner led missions. So the first is the Great Train Robbery. And Horner's calls you and is like, or like in the mission briefing, Horner's like, hey, so we got we intercepted some Dominion chatter and they're doing something weird on Tarsonis. Not sure what, but we should probably go investigate it. And if you remember again, Tarsonis is the former head of the Confederacy, which is now ruined thanks to Mengsk. So you go there, there's some ruin, like a lot of ruins, not too many Zerg left at the moment because you're basically going in a spot that is controlled by the Dominion. The Dominion are salvaging a bunch of stuff from Tarsonis and putting them on trains to try and get them from point A to point B. Your job is to prevent that. Since apparently there's some really special cargo on one of these trains, you don't know which one, but one of them has the cargo that you presumably want, and you do actually want it in the end. And this is the mission where you get introduced to some Diamondbacks, and Swan's like, hey, these are some old Confederate Diamondbacks. That's crazy. It's just the funny thing is that you never see them in StarCraft 1, despite these being a strictly StarCraft 1 era unit. But the Diamondbacks are cool, if a bit kind of impractical. They are pretty heavily armored, decently bulky, decently mobile hovercraft that have these laser rail cannons on them that actually can fire while moving. So this is the mission for them because you're fighting moving targets in the trains, and the trains can actually wind up going pretty fast. So the Diamondbacks are the best for it because you don't need to stop, shoot, and then move again. You can just keep moving and shooting at the same time. It's just the problem is the Diamondbacks are really, really expensive. So it's they're not usually worth it to go normally, and there aren't too many other missions outside of this that have a moving objective that's you really need Diamondbacks for, which is a shame because I think they're a pretty cool unit. But yeah, so mission's pretty simple. You just blow up the trains. You can find some defiler bones and stuff. There's some pretty tough Dominion forces here and there. They sent out this really big ball of marauders to eventually patrol the tracks because the game thing is you're making Diamondbacks, they're armored units. Marauders are do bonus damage to armored units, so it's you don't want to run into them. But eventually you blow up enough trains and you find what you're looking for. It's this big salvage pod, and inside the pod is an adjutant, and not just any adjutant. It was actually the one that you had back in the campaign of Rebel Yell, which is basically it has all the recordings of stuff that happened during that campaign, including Manx's monologue when he was abandoning Kerrigan to the Zerg, where he was being all evil and megalomaniacal and stuff, where he's like, and then, like one of the quotes on it is like, "I will burn the sector to ashes before," or like it's something about like burning the sector down and rolling its ashes or something. I don't know, like being all evil and stuff, and like confessing to abandoning Kerrigan, and it's a lot of incriminating stuff essentially. The very TLDR is that there's a lot of incriminating stuff on it that would probably be good to spread around the Dominion if it's if you're some rebels. Also, I should mention during this time, after every mission, you can go in the cantina, you can check the TV, and it'll usually have a news update. And so it's brought to you by Donnie Vermillion and Kate Lockwell. Donnie Vermillion is the news anchor for UNN, and he's like very hammy and very like entirely like biting into the Kool-Aid or like drinking the Kool-Aid, like completely and utterly like in the propaganda machine. Like he doesn't like, he's not deliberately peddling it. Like he just thinks that what it is what it is. Like he just thinks that Rayner is like a terrorist. He thinks that Mengsk and the Dominion are like, the best things in sliced bread and whatnot. And he's a total stooge, but he's great. And meanwhile, Kate Lockwell is basically like Lois Lane. Like she's the spunky, street smart, like on-field reporter. And like she's the one who's like, actually, Donnie, here's what really happened. And then she gets cut off midway through by Donnie. It's really, really good. Like I'm not doing it nearly enough justice. The news segments are fantastic. I love Donnie Vermillion. He's such a fun character, and he eventually gets. I'll get to the end of this quest line in a little bit. But so next mission is Cutthroat, where Matt's like, hey, so we had to go and send off the adjutant to get decrypted. So they seize the adjutant, and they know like that it is a Confederate adjutant, so they know it's something good is probably on it, and whatever it is, the Dominion clearly wanted it, not in the hands of anyone else. So it's like they like Matt and Jim and everyone know that like something is useful on it, but they don't know what yet. So they have to go get it decrypted, and Horner sends it off to this guy named Colonel Orland, who's this like pirate guy or like mercenary guy who's willing to decrypt it, but he does off screen. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to just sell this to the highest bidder. Like he's planning on selling it to the Dominion, I think is what he is. Cause I think he sees what's on it, and he's like, I could probably get a lot more money this way. So you have to go and stop him. And so you go to this place called Dead Man's Port, which is this like mercenary haven. And while you're there, you meet a woman by the name of Mirahan. And Mirahan is, oh boy, she's someone. So she is this mercenary leader, and she is entirely unhinged. Like the most unhinged person I think I've ever seen. She's great. I love Mirahan. She's such a fun character. The best part is though, is that she's actually married to Matt Horner. Not that Matt Horner was trying to marry her. It was like apparently sometime before this, and like a card game or something, Matt had entered it. I don't remember why he did this. I think it's explained partly, but basically he enters a card game not knowing the prize, wins the card game. The prize turns out to be Mira's hand in marriage. So they are officially wedded. Matt Horner does not like this. He doesn't like despise Mira. He's more just like, I do not like, please don't associate me with you right now in front of my friends. You're embarrassing me, Mira. We can talk about this later. It's so fun. Their dynamic is so great. They show up again in Heart of the Swarm. And it's great. There's also, in Heroes of the Storm, the MOBA that Blizzard made that like combines all their properties together in one, has an announcer where it's Matt and Mira together, and it's perfection. It's so good. I love their dynamic so much. But basically Mira has this really souped up base full of mercenaries that's kind of chilling on the bottom of the map. And the goal of the mission is to race to like 6,000 minerals to pay Mirahan, and it's basically either like you can pay Mirahan to hire her, and then you can go take down Orlin together, or Orlin will pay her, and they basically do the same thing to you. So it's a race to get Mira's affection, and eventually you do that. You go and take down Orlin. You nearly destroy his base, and then he surrenders, and he's like, all right, I'll give it up. And so he surrenders and gives up the adjutant, and that's when it gets revealed of like, it has all the juicy information on Mengsk. So yeah, it's at this point they're like, all right, Matt and Rayner are like, all right, so we have the plan. We need to go to Core Hall and go to the UNN studios and have all these messages broadcast to, really hurt Manx's image. Just show that like, yeah, this guy committed war crimes and whatnot and killed like a ton of people. And it's also the reason for the Queen of Blades existing. So to do that, since, assaulting Core Hall would be suicide, essentially, like it would not go well. They are able to locate a secret Dominion's research weapons facility on the planet of Valhalla, which is aptly titled because there is a giant mech that the Dominion are building known as the Odin. The Odin is, it's a giant bipedal mech with gun hands and guns on the back shoulders. It's absurdly strong. Tychus leads the way, and he, after a little bit of a segment where you basically just defend Tychus, you find the Odin, it assembles, and then Tychus decides that he wants to be the pilot for it. So the mission, Engine of Destruction, is you're going through this Dominion facility as Tychus and the Odin just wrecks house. And your goal, as you get the Wraith, which is not a very good unit, it carries over from StarCraft 1, all from also not being a very good unit in that. It's decent anti-air, it can cloak, it is a terrible anti-ground weapon, but it's pretty mobile in this one. And it's basically, you got to take down all the air stuff so that Tychus and the Odin has decent anti-air, but it's much better anti-ground. So you're basically playing cover for the Odin as the Odin just wrecks house throughout the entire facility. And that's about it. You follow Tychus. Tychus is having the time of his life in the Odin because he is like, he likes big guns. He carries around a minigun, and he is walking around in the biggest gun the Dominion has. That is not like a battleship or battlecruiser. And Tychus he's so fun in this mission. It eventually gets to the end. And he's like, "Ooh, what's this big red button do?" And he just launches a nuke. It's so good. So that's about it for this mission. It's very, very simple. It's just Tychus having the best day in existence. And that leads into Media Blitz, which is a very fun mission. And it is, you are on Core Hall. Tychus is able to sneak in with the Odin to Core Hall as Mengsk is revealing it to the Dominion, and it's like the newest weapon of war against the Zerg. It's our big mech, essentially. And you also get introduced at this time to General Warfield, Horace Warfield, I should specify, who is a Dominion general. They're like top Dominion military commander. He's not super important in this mission. He's basically provides a couple voice lines of like, hey, he's in charge of the planet's defenses at the moment and whatnot. But yeah, so it's basically, you start out with Tychus in the Odin, and you can go around, and it's a sneak attack mission where no one is aggro to you initially, but if you shoot them, then you can aggro them. And you have I think it's 5 minutes, a certain amount of time as Tychus before the Dominion gets wind of oh yeah, this guy, the Odin is not under our control. So you go around and destroy as bunch of stuff as you can. There's 3 different bases covering the 3 towers that you need to control to broadcast the upload to. There's each has one of the section or one of the subsets of Terran units. So one is a barracks base, so it has ghosts, reapers, and marines and marauders. One is a factory base, so it has siege tanks and Goliaths and whatnot. And then the third is a starport base, which has ravens and banshees and wraiths and all that. So you can pick and choose which one you want to assault with the Odin. And then after the 5 minutes are up, you go back to your little base and you build up, and it's basically a normal mission after that. You just also have the Odin. This is also where you get introduced to Thor, which is basically just a smaller Odin. Thor is also a unit that you can use in multiplayer. So it's the same as the Odin and just not quite as good. And yeah, so it's a pretty simple mission after that. You go around, you secure the towers, you defend the towers, you upload the stuff. There's also a secret mission that you can unlock where in the bottom corner of the map tucked away, there's a science facility where if you destroy it, you unlock the secret mission. I did not know this existed for about 10 years. It was, I just didn't know it was a thing until I was actually watching Giant Cramp Games, some of the challenge runs through it. And I was like, wait a minute, there's a secret mission in this game. I feel I checked the missions and say, it's hey, complete the secret mission piercing the shroud. And I'm like, where do you find that? I don't know. So I just never bothered checking. and yeah, so it's not super hard once you actually kind of look around the map and see. It's just knowing that it's on this map, and since it's just out of the way. But yeah, you eventually unlock that. And so eventually at the end of this, during one of Donnie's broadcasts, the truth gets revealed essentially. And it's a really good moment for Donnie because it's like you hear him like basically what's supposed to be off air where he's like, I had a brother on Tarsonis. And it's you see that it's like even the guy who's basically been peddling Dominion propaganda 24/7, it's like this guy's not a bad guy either. He's just caught up in the like all the propaganda and stuff that Mengsk and company are pushing. So it's like even like guys on high level, like on the high level are not aware of like who Mengsk really is. So it's cool to see like this is the rebellion storyline. This is the Raynor's Raiders storyline specifically. And it's a good one. So we get to piercing the shroud because I have to go over this one. So it's a secret mission and it's basically the science facility is destroyed. It had some like secret documents within and it's like, hey, there's a secret Dominion research facility we should go investigate. So you go there and you go in and you fight through it and there's like a brutalist there. Eventually you find this big test chamber and what's in it is a hybrid. So if you flash back to the secret mission and at the end of the Brood War campaign where Zeratul was going to a Terran Dominion test site, it's basically the same thing. Though this time there's no spooky Samir Duran talking. Instead, it's just a hybrid there. And it chases you out of the facility as the facility starts to blow up. This is also very much setting up for the next two games, the two expansions. And yeah, so it's pretty simple. You find a hybrid. This is like if you actually find the secret missions, this is the first time as Terran they get introduced to the hybrid, and that's about it. Doesn't really get brought up again because the Terran actually like Raynor, the guys don't encounter the hybrid too much until Legacy of the Void, and by then it's like the hybrid aren't really a secret thing anymore. I don't know. It's a little underwhelming. It's also more so because what the hybrid turned out to be, but I'll get to that later. All right, and so the last of the non-main storyline missions, I promise we're getting there, is not Protoss, or not, spoiled it actually. They're not Terran missions. They're instead Protoss missions. So I think this actually unlocks after the second of the main storyline missions, but I'm just going to go to these anyway because it doesn't really matter. But it's at one point, Jim is kind of walking through the Hyperion and the lights start flickering and it gets all dramatic. And then Zeratul shows up. And Zeratul, because he's always overly dramatic, he's a theater kid. He just prefers to be dramatic rather than straightforward. He gives Raynor this little crystal. Zeratul's also looking like he just got out of a bar fight. And Zeratul's like, use this, read my mind in this, and you can see prophecy, bye. And he just leaves because he's very cryptic about everything, and he's very dramatic. I like Zeratul though; he's cool. He's just you tone the crypticism down, buddy. But anyway, so if you look into the crystal, which is kind of kept in the lab, you can basically peer into Zeratul's mind, and he's basically like. I guess in theory, he's like showing Raynor like a YouTube video or like a Twitch stream of like him doing stuff. But in reality, it's just like you get to play the Protoss for 4 missions, which is pretty fun. So the first one is Whispers of Doom, which takes place on this planet called, I think, Ulan is what the wiki tells me. I honestly don't remember this planet ever being named. But Zeratul's been pursuing this prophecy for who knows how long. Supposedly about like the end of the world and like how to save it and whatnot, and how like all of this like weird stuff in the background has been building up to. So it goes to this planet, and apparently like there's fragments of the prophecy here, but unfortunately the Zerg are here, so he's got to navigate through them. And it's basically you get to learn how to play Zeratul, and then you get some stalkers as well. It's a very simple mission, and you basically go around finding fragments of the prophecy. And honestly, I don't really remember what it all says because Zeratul just kind of monologues a lot about it. But it's like, it's talking a lot about like Protoss and the Zerg and the Infinite Cycle. And it's like stuff that gets brought up in StarCraft 1. It's like restating a lot of that stuff. Kerrigan also shows up because she, I guess, wants to destroy the prophecy and whatnot. And yeah. You also meet up with a Daylon Protoss High Templar named Karas, who's like hunting the Queen of Blades, so you help him out a little bit, but he eventually gets overrun and dies. I always get very sad when we get to that part because I don't like seeing the Protoss die. But anyway, it's a very simple mission. Zeratul just goes around, finds some prophecy stuff, but he like needs to figure out a way to like decipher the prophecy or whatnot. So he has to go to the planet of Zakul, where the Protoss preservers are, because I guess it's like they can translate it for him or decipher it. So he goes there and then finds like some buildings abandoned, so he's a little confused. And then he finds a stalker, which is a Protoss unit that's like a Nerazim unit, so a Dark Templar unit that is like basically the Nerazim equivalent to a Dragoon. Stalker shows up and he's like taunting Zeratul, and he's like, "You shouldn't be here. You're a heretic and whatnot." And he's being all evil and stuff, and he's like got a green color to him. And Zeratul's like, "That Stalker's been corrupted." And then it's revealed that there's a hybrid here, a hybrid named Mar, with two A's, and Mar is like. He just starts spouting some like evil taunting stuff, and he's like, "You are," I don't even remember what he says, but he just taunts you a lot, and then he charges your base very slowly, and then you beat him back, and then he goes and drains the preservers because they're all like in stasis. It's not a very complicated mission. This is like the last one was like, here's how to move with Zeratul and like how Blink works and whatnot. And then this is like, here's how to build a pylon. Here's how to mine with a probe. Here's how a gateway works. It's like a very crash course introduction to how the Protoss works. And so you go and you fight Mar and you kill Mar, which is good because the hybrid need to get destroyed because they're evil. And it's like Zeratul knows that Mar is like, he's not the master behind everything. He's not the mastermind. He's just he's a lieutenant sort of in this mysterious force that is causing problems in the background. But anyway, Zeratul frees the preservers and they translate the prophecy or something and basically tell him to go to Ire to go to the Overmind because like someone over there is calling him. But it's basically they're like for some reason the Overmind has some connection to this, so you got to go back to Ire, which I like this mission. Echoes of the Future, which is this mission, so you go back to Ire. You also get some Colossi that show up, which are like it's just always funny that like these Colossi were buried under the water during the war or something, and it's like we never saw them in StarCraft 1. But anyway, it's you go to the corpse of the Overmind, and it's pretty cool because the map design is sort of like if you take the map from StarCraft 1 and the final mission in StarCraft 1 where you fight the Overmind with the Protoss and the Zerg, and it just kind of flipped a little bit. So it's like on the original map, it's like the sort of narrowy. It's sort of like if you take a piece of paper and like the 8x11 and you have it like normal, like the like narrow like top and bottom and like longer on the side lengths, I guess is what I can say. And like narrow height. What I don't know. Anyway, like you just have your normal piece of paper in front of you. The Terran base was Raynor is in the top left in StarCraft 1, and then Tastar's base is in the bottom right. In this one, in StarCraft 2, the version of the map, it's flipped. Like you would flip the paper around to make it the long way across, essentially. And then there's like a ruined Protoss base up in the top left, and then a ruined Terran base in the top right. So it's like kind of inverted, but there's still like, there's ruins there from like back when you fought the Overmind the first time. So it's pretty cool. And it's basically you have to go around with Zeratul, and you go to like the Overmind tendrils that are sticking up around the ground, and Zeratul like does something there. He like reads the mind of the Overmind or something, or like reads the lingering essence or something. It's one where you can actually like with Zeratul and Blink, you can just go around and beat the mission in 2 minutes because the tendrils, like when you do the objective, they just they insta heal you back to full health and shields. So with like the lack of detection around, because Zeratul is permanently cloaked, you can just beat it in like 2 minutes. It's really fun. But anyway, at the end, like Spirit of Tassadar shows up, and he's like, Zeratul, there's great danger and stuff. Go fulfill the prophecy, and if you don't, bad things will happen. Here, let me show you. So it gives you a vision, or Tassadar gives Zeratul a vision, or seemingly Tassadar, I should say. It's actually not in the end. But the Spirit of Tassadar gives Zeratul a vision of the future of like what would happen if the prophecy and like a certain thing wasn't revealed. or like didn't happen. And I think it gets revealed at this point. So it's basically if Kerrigan dies, essentially. Like if Kerrigan dies, then the bad ending. The world gets the bad ending. So Kerrigan needs to live. And so the final mission of this little Zeratul quest train is known as In Utter Darkness. And it is the bad ending essentially for the world. A glimpse into the future where this dark voice that is the true big bad of StarCraft, the leader of the hybrid, has seemingly gotten rid of all the Terran, gotten rid of or controlled all of the Zerg at this point. Like all of the Zerg are under its command. And the last of the Protoss is gathering on some distant planet, who knows where, to make their final stand. And so this is one where the goal is to survive for like given amount of time, things like 25 minutes. And then after that, you just have to lose. Like you have to have everyone get wiped out. So it's a mission I always dread playing because it's like, I just don't like seeing all my favorite characters die. So it's like, yeah, you start out with Zeratul and then you get a bunch of Protoss heroes. So it's Admiral Arun and his like souped up Phoenix. Arun is a character that mostly just shows up in the comics and also dies in the comics. Then you got Mohandar and his Void Ray. Same thing. Mohandar is someone who basically shows up in the comics and the books, and also dies in the comics and the books. I forgot which one. Then you get Selendis in her souped up carrier. Selendis does not die in the comics. She actually survives. She shows up in Legacy of the Void as well, but we'll get to that later. And then finally, Artanis in the Mothership, and a pretty bad character portrait. He gets a much better one in Legacy of the Void. But yeah, Artanis shows up in the end, but in the end, it's not enough, and the Overmind wins, or not the Overmind. The Dark Voice wins in this bad future. That's about it. Very, very easy to explain story wise. It's just the Protoss lose in the bad ending, and the Dark Voice with the Zerg swarm under its command has wiped out basically everything. Also the hybrid under its command. You fight a lot of hybrid as well. And yeah, that's no one is left to challenge its rule. So anyway, to go back to the main storyline, in order to prevent this bad ending, the boys have to gather the Xel'Naga artifacts. So we go all the way back to Smash and Grab, one of the first missions you can play. And this is one where it's basically a lot of these are tight because it's like, hey, so the Mobius Foundation has found another artifact. We got to go get it. So the planet on the Monolith, the planet of Monolith has an artifact, and the Tal'Darim are defending it. And so you got to go fight the Tal'Darim, and it's basically two big old bridges towards the artifact site, essentially. And the top bridge is getting assaulted by the Zerg because Kerrigan shows up because she wants the artifact. And so it's basically a race, a very slow race, but a race nonetheless, with the top lane being the Zerg push, and then the bottom lane being your push. And so basically you go down, you get the Marauder. The Marauder's pretty nice, and you assault. This is also like one of the early missions, so it's very easy. So you take down the Protoss base, pretty simple, and then you fight some stone zealots at the end. So it's basically like these giant statues of zealots then kind of burst to life and are actually sort of like giant golems in a sense, and they shoot laser beams that are really weak comparatively to like what they should be. They're like really, really bad colossi, essentially. Like they're really, really crappy colossus. And they're a very easy boss fight. If you like, even if you don't know what's coming, it's not super difficult. And anyway, in the end, you get the artifact. So after that, the next mission is the dig. This is always a fun one that I like to play. So it's another artifact has been found. It's in this giant vault that has like 50 billion stone doors on the planet of Zil. The Mobius Foundation had sent a crew out to go try and dig it up, but they went dark. And so you go in and you're like, oh yeah, the Tal'Darim, they're the reason why. So you eventually, this is also the mission where you unlock the siege tank. So it is a very fun mission. And so you go, you beat some it's like the initial little phase is you fight some units, then you get to introduce the siege tank, and then you use the siege tank to beat down the units. It shows like, hey, the siege tank is really cool. You should use it. And then it's a big old defense mission, essentially. You have a elevated platform. You have a giant laser drill that has been being used to just burn through the temple doors. And it's like basically you have to defend the drill for as long as it takes. But the fun thing is you actually don't have to. There's two very well defended Protoss bases on the map, but if you destroy them, you just win, because obviously it's like if there's no defenders left, you don't have to wait around, or you don't have to like stress about defending. You can take as long as you want to break open the temple. And about like a decent way into the mission, you gain manual control over the drill, and the drill just basically instantly melts any unit in like seconds. It's great. So you can use the drill to like melt down like all the structures of the Protoss bases. It's very fun. It's a very fun mission. So after that, you get another artifact. And then the next one is the Mobius Factor. So this one you get called by the head of the Mobius Foundation, Dr. Emil Nerud, on the planet of Tyrador 4, which is, or not 4, if I can read Roman numerals correctly, 8. Tyrador 8 is being assaulted by the Zerg, and it's like the home of the Mobius Foundation. So you have to go and destroy a bunch of data cores before Kerrigan can like absorb them and know like everything the Mobius Foundation has to offer and whatnot. So it's basically, you just go around, you get the metafacts, so it's like you can pick up and drop off units and heal them at the same time, and then you have to go around through a bunch of Zerg defenses and blow up the data cores. It's a pretty boring mission. I always found it really hard when I was younger, but it's not super difficult. And yeah, it's about it. Kerrigan's like taunting you and Nerud at the same time. And the funny thing is that when this mission came out, we got introduced to Nerud. Basically, everyone in the fandom immediately figured out that Nerud was just Duran spelled backwards, and they're like, "Wait a minute, he's just Samir Duran." What? There's something's fishy here. So I think it was supposed to be like a big twist for Heart of the Swarm, but it just never gets like revealed as a twist because everyone just figured it out immediately that Nerud and Duran are the same person. So yeah, the Mobius Foundation is not all good. It's not all good, and it gets expanded on later. But yeah, so that's more setting up for later. But yeah, Duran is running the Mobius Foundation, to a point at least. He's like their head scientist, and he's also a shapeshifter. I'll just say that right now. There's also some other story stuff with like Raynor and Matt Horner and like Raynor's alcoholism stuff. It's like a whole thing in the background with like basically character development for like Raynor. Tychus is in there as well, getting character development. Like I have not been focusing a lot on the characters just because like I don't want to try and recap all the like in between cutscenes and whatnot, since that would make this episode like 4 hours long. But the basic, like if you go and play through this game, you'll see that there's a lot of really good characterization, especially for like the big three of Raynor, Horner, and Tychus. And I definitely have not been doing enough, I think, to emphasize that, but it's done very, very well. But the like small gist of it is that Tychus is like this, because this is a lot of his story, is Wings of Liberty. Like he's almost as much the main character as Raynor is in a sense. And Tychus is like initially basically just focused on the Mobius stuff. Like he just wants the artifact. He wants to blow stuff up. And he doesn't really care about the rebellion and whatnot. He's just kind of in it for the money, in it for the fun, and in it for the job. But as things goes on, he's like, he grows more and more, like in tune with the Raiders and like what they want to do and all that. Like he's willing to go along with the rebellion and whatnot. Like he enjoys, like he was really enjoying the Odin and all that. And he grows more into a proper freedom fighter, which is a pretty cool, like, in between missions development. So anyway, the next mission is Supernova, and this is also a pretty fun one. So the planet of Typhon 11 holds another artifact, and initially it seems pretty easy, and then the nearby star goes, as the title says, supernova. So the planet is suddenly getting engulfed by a giant wave of fire. And so even if scientifically this might not entirely be accurate, you basically have to land and there's a giant wall of flames slowly encroaching from the left side of the map. And you have to basically have a race against time to progress further and further into Protoss territory, Tal'Darim territory, I should say. Because basically all the time you fight the Protoss in the main story, or in like the artifact section of the story, is you're fighting with Tal'Darim. So it's basically the Blizzard created or kind of appropriated faction from, I think, like a novel trilogy, like the Dark Templar novel trilogy. I could be wrong, but it's basically a Protoss faction that you don't have to feel bad about killing, because they're not the Daylon. They're not the guys you fought with. They're not the guys Raider fought alongside with in StarCraft 1 and Brood War, except for frickin' Safe Haven, because again, I hate that mission. But yeah, so like strictly evil faction of Protoss. Up until Legacy of the Void, they get greatly expanded on in Legacy of the Void, but that is something for 2 weeks from now. Anyway, so Supernova, once again, it's like after you get through the initial submarine, it's pretty easy. It's a fun one where you have to manage, like you have to go quick enough that you can establish another base as you basically take over the various like Protoss outposts as you move along, but you can't go too quickly. So you wind up like losing all your units and then not having enough time to build up before the firewall hits. So it's a good race against time. But eventually you do get you're able to get the artifact and you're almost done. There's one more artifact to get, and that is in Maw of the Void. And the final artifact is located on this like giant thing. I don't even really know what to call it. It's like sort of a space station, kind of, but like Tal'Darimi. I guess, okay, the wiki calls it a Xel'Naga world ship. The best way I can describe it. It's just a kind of a neat setting where it's not a planet, but it's something else. And so you have to fight through a ton of very, very well-defended Tal'Darim in fortifications. But this is the mission where you get the battlecruiser. Also Supernova is the mission where you get the Banshee. Banshee is this like hovering flying unit that can cloak and deals damage to ground targets. Deals a lot of good damage to ground targets. It's a fun unit. This is the mission though where you get the battlecruisers. Battlecruisers are always fun. And it's one where it's like there's these things called rip field generators, which are basically just it creates a radius that in the radius does damage over time. Essentially, it's like supposedly it like breaks you down on the atomic level. So it's sort of like the guns that the Necron uses in Warhammer. And so the battlecruisers are like one of the only units that can easily like handle the damage over time debuff without like dying essentially. So it's one where you can basically just go like a full on battlecruiser army. Since this is the mission where you it's the battlecruiser mission essentially. It's a pretty fun one. So you go along. You can also find some captured Dark Templar because the Dark Templar are not friends of the Tal'Darim. So you can break them out of prison as well. So it's fun that you have like your whole Terran army and then also some Dark Templar as well. And then eventually you fight the Protoss or the Tal'Darim executor known as Nyon, who is like a name that he only gets in like the mission files or something. Like he just never says his name and he's like never named in the subtitles. But a Nyon who's like been a background character will like he'll taunt you like after every mission in this like quest line, and then he shows up in his mothership and then you blow it up and yeah, you get the full artifact. So with the full artifact and basically everything done, you get one other cutscene as you're basically planning on linking up with Mobius. But as you do, instead, if I can actually find where the cutscene is in the wiki, just so I can remember exactly what happens. They're like the Hyperion is basically scheduled to meet up with Mobius Foundation after stuff went down to confer with like their plans moving forward. But instead, they get encountered by 3 Dominion battlecruisers, including Arcturus Manx's flagship itself. So Raynor and Tychus and some of the boys wind up boarding the Bucephalus, which is the flagship name, to go and it's like they have the opportunity. Let's go get Mengsk. So Raynor breaks in and he gets into the like the bridge, essentially the command deck, whatever you want to call it, and he does find Mengsk, just not the Mengsk he was expecting. So one character I have neglected to mention yet, who shows up occasionally here and there, mainly on the news broadcasts, is Arcturus Mengsk's son, Valerian Mengsk. And Valerian reveals that he is not only not his father, he is his father's son. He's not a bad guy either. He's also the owner of the Mobius Foundation. So he's actually been the one that has been financially backing basically Raynor this whole time, and Tychus. And has been trying to get the artifact. And he's basically says to Raynor, I have a plan, or I have an idea, and I need your help so we can save Sarah Kerrigan from the Zerg, essentially. And that gets Raynor's attention immediately because despite what he said in Brood War, he actually wants to save Kerrigan. So essentially, Valerian explains that the Zelnag artifact, from what Mobius tells him, it can, in theory, revert the Zerg infestation in Kerrigan. And how it works, no. But that's the idea, is that Valerian wants to assault Char, the Zerg homeworld, or like the main Zerg base that in the Kaprulu sector, because the actual homeworld of the Zerg gets expanded on in Heart of the Swarm, but we'll get to that later, next week. But yeah, so Valerian is like, let's go assault Char, and so we can, purify Kerrigan, and have the Zerg no longer have the Queen of Blades. So in theory, that would stop the Zerg. So it's like, it's a good plan in theory. In practice, doesn't quite go great. So with a good chunk of the Dominion army, and also Rainer's Raiders, and General Warfield as well, the first mission of the final set of the Char missions, Gates of Hell, is one where the whole army shows up on Char, and with dozens of battle cruisers, and then things just go wrong immediately because Kerrigan was clearly expecting them. No doubt Duran was probably telling her or something. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, the invasion goes sideways very quickly. And so while the Raiders are able to establish a base, the Dominion is having a terrible time. And so you have, the first half of the mission is you're basically running around Char, killing all the Zerg you can, and rescuing any and everyone you can find as they land on the planet. Then eventually, once you get up to a certain army supplies, there's a certain number of forces, Warfield's ship gets shot down, and he takes, to quote, terrible damage. It's a very fun quote that gets memed on a lot. So Warfield basically pulls a General Duke in the NORAD 2, so you have to go and rescue him. And yeah, that's basically the second half of the mission, is using your giant army that you created to steamroll through the rest of the map. It's pretty simple. And then in the cutscene after, you see Warfield as he's fighting. He basically tanks multiple Hydralisk spines to the arm, and it completely kills his arm. And then he punches the Hydralisk too. Warfield's awesome. He's one of the best characters in StarCraft. Then it's revealed after that he basically amputates his arm and replaces it with a giant hand cannon. It's so cool. He just has a giant cannon, literal cannon on his arm. Not even a pistol or a revolver. It is a full-on cannon instead of an arm. It's really cool. I think it can also switch into a giant mechanical hand too, but it's the cannon is the real part. So after that, with a base established on Char, we get to the final split mission of the game, the second to last, technically. I mean, it's two missions in one, but it's the second to last section of the game. And it basically determines on how you want to play the final mission. So it's either do you want to play against, do you want to get rid of air units or Nidus Worms, or Mutalisks and Broodlords or Nidus Worms. So I'll go with Shadow of the Sky first. So Shadow of the Sky is the one where if you want to get rid of the air units, so you have to go back out in space to this infested platform that is a sort of breeding ground for Zerg flyers. And it's implied that this is the same platform that the mission Omega took place on, which is the final mission StarCraft Brood War, where you're playing as Kerrigan and you're fighting against Dougal and Artanis and Manx at the same time, which is pretty neat. And so this is a fun one because it's basically it's the best big sandbox mission, because you have 5 platforms, each has a trigger to it, essentially. I forget what they call it, but it's the these reactor things essentially, and you have to blow up the reactors to the generator and coolant tower. That's what they call it. But you have to blow them up, and it'll trigger explosion and take down a section of the platform. You have to do it 5 times, but it's you have, I think you have three or 4 different bases that you can claim on the map, and it's just you have the full tech tree unlocked. There's a lot of Zerg, so it's basically just telling you to go have fun. It's a very fun mission. I think after the 3rd reactor goes down, the Leviathan shows up, which is this giant, absurdly large Zerg flyer that's a sort of mini boss. And you actually don't have to kill it in this at all. You can just ignore it, but it'll patrol around some of the later sections. So it's just annoying, but it's not super difficult to get rid of if you have the right composition, but it's very beefy. But it's still cool to it adds a little bit extra to the mission. And so if you go that route, the final mission will not contain, or basically like the final mission, if you don't do it, has a wave, like a specialized wave of mutalisks, brood lords, and eventually the Leviathan as well, like consistently attacking you about like halfway through, I want to say. But that I'll get to all in just a sec. If you were to go to the other route, known as Belly of the Beast, this is actually also a very fun one, where instead of a macro mission, there's a micro mission. So you get Raynor, Tychus, Stetman, and Swan, just the four of them, go in, and like each of them are their own like very unique units, and you're going through a bunch of Zerg tunnels underground because you're basically planting a bunch of charges on various key points to in the caves to flood the caves with lava, because the goal is to prevent Nidus worms from going through for the final battle. Nidus worms are these Zerg units that are transport units that can burst in the ground anywhere on the map and just deposit units out on the ground to it. So they're very annoying to deal with. I hate Nidus worms a lot. And so this is one that I take great pleasure in doing. This is a mission I take great pleasure in completing. And so Raynor is sort of a glass cannon where he has good damage. He has a sniper rifle ability that is basically a railgun shot that does an insane amount of damage in a straight line, but he doesn't have a ton of health. Tychus is more like a bit beefier and more of an area damage guy. He has a minigun that does decent area damage as auto attack, and then he also has a grenade that does a really good amount of auto damage, or like area damage in a radius. Swan is your tank. He's got like a Marauder concussor shell, so he like slow rate of fire, but does decent output on his own. But he can also throw down a turret that has an automated turret that shoots fire and has a really good armor and a lot of health. So it's more so his turret is the tank and Swan's just kind of there. But Flamin' Betty, the name that he has for his turret, is really, really useful. And then the Stetman, who is just your super medic. He just heals guys really, really quickly, and that's about it. His voice lines are always really funny in this mission as well. And so as you go along, you can also find some rescuable allies from the Dominion. And yeah, you go around. Like the first one is like the first section, I should say, is just normal Zerg stuff. The second one is infested Terran, just a ton of infested Terran. And then the third one, you're fighting a giant Zerg queen that is sort of like a mini boss as well. And then eventually, you blow it up. And if you go this route, you don't have to deal with Nidus worms in the final mission, which is All In. And so All In is the big defense mission to end the campaign. So you have the Xel'Naga artifact fully assembled in your big massive base with a ton of resources and a ton of production stuff all ready, a ton of units to start out as well, and you have Zerg everywhere. And the goal is to hold out for like 30 minutes until the artifact fully charges, and once it does, then you win. And along this time, Kerrigan also shows up because she is here on Char, obviously, and she does not want the artifact to get charged up. So you have to fight Kerrigan, and she is really, really strong. You can basically take her down to low HP, and she'll burrow and run away to go and heal up. And you have to do this like 5 times. And she gets some like really strong abilities. Like this one, there's Razor Swarm, which does an insane area damage. Like it's basically just a giant ball that does insane area damage. So it's like any clumped up unit, like ball of units, just dies immediately. I think she has Implosion, which does like any mechanical unit that gets in her range, she will just insta kill. So like it could be it could be an SCV because I think they're mechanical. It could be a battle cruiser. It doesn't matter. They just die instantly. It's really annoying. But yeah, so Kerrigan's annoying. If you go with if you play Belly of the Beast, you have to deal with a Leviathan in this match, or in this mission, where it basically just sits in the middle of the map and just constantly spawns more units. It's very annoying, but it's another fun challenge. So it's a very fun mission of like testing your ability to testing all your abilities up to this point. But eventually, in the end, you're able to charge up the artifact and launch it, cleanse most of the area of the Zerg, and supposedly cure Kerrigan. So the final cutscene of the game, Raynor, Tychus, and some Marines are going into like the area where Kerrigan's at or whatever, like some Zerg hatchery or whatnot, and find Kerrigan has mostly been cleansed of the Zerg. Her hair's still Zerg, but the rest of her is human. And so Raynor's getting ready to rescue her and take her back. And that's when Tychus reveals that he, quote, made a deal with the devil, Jimmy. And that basically the goal is that he goes free so long as Kerrigan dies. Like he made a deal with Arcturus Mengsk for his freedom so long as Kerrigan dies. But Raynor knows that, well, A, he knows that Kerrigan is kind of needed for the whole prophecy thing, but also B, he has always been in love with Kerrigan, even through the bad. I know a lot of people don't really like that Raynor goes soft on her here compared to what happened in Brood War, but in the end, how Blizzard wrote it, Raynor is looking to save Kerrigan, and in the end, Tychus moves to shoot Kerrigan. Raynor blocks it with his armor, and then he kills Tychus instead. So Tychus, I think, was accepting of the fact that he probably wasn't going to get out of it alive, but in the end, it was he kind of forced Raynor to make the choice. Raynor made the choice of saving Kerrigan, and in the end, Wings of Liberty leads off with Raynor carrying Kerrigan out to a hopefully brighter future. Now no longer the Queen of Blades, with the Dominion, lost a lot of their army, but the Zerg itself are not in a good spot anymore. And we'll pick up with the Zerg in Heart of the Swarm, one that I'll get to Heart of the Swarm next week. I'm not a big fan of it. I'll just say that. The opening cutscene was great, but there's a lot to talk about there. So this went on for probably like an hour longer than I would have liked. I'm gonna be honest. I thought this was gonna be a lot shorter. But yeah, so that is StarCraft II: Wings of Liberty. Really, really good game. I would recommend playing it. I think it's actually free on Battle.net. Like, I'm pretty sure Wings of Liberty itself, the campaign, is free. So go play it. It's really, really good. I would highly recommend it. I think it's the best of all the StarCraft campaigns. It's like got a ton of replayability. There's like some stuff I didn't even mention, like the Lost Viking stuff going on. And yeah, it's really, really good. I'm really tired. It's 2:30 in the morning. So I'm gonna just end this off here and save the rendering for when I wake up in like, I don't know, 10 hours. That's all. Thank you very much for listening. I've been Henry, the host. I'm very tired. See you guys later.